What if I told you that 5 months ago I was afraid to speak even one sentence in English? No confidence, no fluency, no hope. People laughed. Opportunities passed me by. And every time I heard English, I felt small. But today, I am standing here speaking English with confidence, not because I am special, not because I am talented, but because I followed a simple method that anyone can use. If you have ever felt shy, stuck, or hopeless about English, if you think English is too hard or not for you, then stay with me till the end, because my story may completely change the way you learn English forever. Not knowing English was not just a weakness for me. It was a constant pain that followed me everywhere. Every time I heard someone speak English confidently, I felt uncomfortable inside. I understood some words, but I could not respond. My mind was full of thoughts, but my mouth stayed silent. That silence slowly destroyed my confidence. In classroom, I avoided crying because I was a speak. During group discussions, I stayed quiet while others shared ideas. People thought I had nothing to say, but the truth was different. I had ideas, dreams, and opinions, but English blocked my voice. That feeling was painful. Outside the classroom, the fear became even stronger. Simple conversations felt stressful. I worried about pronunciation, grammar, and making mistakes. Sometimes people corrected me in a way that made me feel embarrassed. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they just ignored me. Each reaction made me feel smaller and weaker. Because of English, I missed opportunities. I avoided interviews, presentations, and social situations. I watched others move forward in life while I stayed in the same place. Slowly, I started believing that English was only for intelligent or talented people, not for someone like me. That belief was dangerous. There were moments when I felt angry with myself. I knew English could change my life, but I didn't know how to learn it properly. I tried grammar books and memorized words, but nothing worked. The failure made me feel hopeless. I wanted to improve, but I felt stuck. That pain became heavy. It affected my confidence, my self-respect, and my future. But deep inside, I also knew one truth. This pain existed because English mattered. And one day, that same pain would push me to change my life. The turning point in my English journey came after I reached a stage where I could no longer accept my situation. One day, after another moment of silence when I wanted to speak but couldn't, I felt deeply frustrated. I realized that this feeling had become normal in my life, and that scared me. I understood that if I continued like this, nothing would ever change. That night, I spent a long time thinking about my future. I imagined myself staying silent forever, watching others move ahead while I stayed behind. That picture was painful. For the first time, I stopped hoping for a miracle and started questioning my own choices. I asked myself why I was waiting and what exactly I was afraid of. The answer was clear. I was afraid of making mistakes and being judged. At that moment, I made a decision. I decided that fear no longer controlled my actions. I accepted that mistakes were not a sign of failure, but a part of learning. I told myself that even broken English was better than no English. That simple thought changed my attitude completely. I also realized that no teacher or course could help me unless I helped myself. Learning English was my responsibility, not anyone else's. I stopped blaming my past, my school, and my background. Instead, I focused on what I could do from that day forward. After that decision, my mindset changed. I stopped waiting to feel confident and started taking small steps despite the fear. I began facing English instead of avoiding it. Every small effort made me feel stronger. I understood that progress does not come from comfort, it comes from action. That turning point did not make me fluent overnight, but it gave me direction. It gave me control over my journey. From today, my enemy, it became a challenge I was ready to face. For a long time, I believed that learning English meant memorizing grammar, rules, and long vocabulary lists. I bought grammar books, watched lectures, and tried to remember rules, tenses, and structures. At the beginning, it felt like I was studying hard, but deep inside, I was confused. The more rules I learned, the more afraid I became of making mistakes. Instead of helping me speak, grammar made me silent. I remember opening a grammar book and feeling overwhelmed. There were too many rules, too many exceptions, and too many things to remember before speaking even one sentence. When I tried to speak, my mind stopped me. I started thinking about tense, word order, and correctness. By the time I checked everything in my head, the conversation was already over. That was frustrating. Vocabulary memorization was no better. I wrote long word lists and tried to memorize meanings. I could remember some words for exams, but I couldn't use them in real conversations. When I needed those words, they disappeared. I realized that knowing a word on paper is very different from using it in real life. That method was not helping me communicate. Traditional learning made English feel like a subject, not a language. It felt heavy, boring, and stressful. I studied for hours, yet I couldn't understand movies, conversations, or simple talks. That made me feel like something was wrong with me, but the truth was that the method was wrong for me. I slowly understood that grammar and memorization were not teaching me how to think in English. They were teaching me how to analyze English. I didn't need perfect grammar to communicate. I needed understanding and confidence. That realization was important because it helped me let go of methods that were holding me back. Once I accepted that traditional methods were failing me, I became open to learning English in a more natural and practical way. That realization prepared me for discovering a better approach. Everything changed when I discovered graded readers. At first, I didn't even believe something so simple could help me. The books looked easy, almost too easy, and I thought real learning had to be difficult. But I decided to try because my old methods were not working. That small decision became one of the most important steps in my journey. When I started reading my first graded reader, I felt something new. I was not translating every word in my head. I was not stopping at every sentence to check grammar. I was actually understanding the story. For the first time, English felt friendly instead of frightening. That feeling surprised me. The language in graded readers was simple and controlled. The sentences were clear and the words repeated naturally. Because of this, my brain began to relax. I didn't feel pressure to understand everything perfectly. I just followed the story, and understanding came naturally. This was completely different from reading difficult textbooks or articles. As I continued reading, I noticed improvement without forcing it. My reading speed increased. My understanding became better. Words that once felt difficult started to feel familiar. I didn't memorize them. I met them again and again in different situations. Slowly, those words became part of my thinking. Another powerful part was listening along with the audio. Hearing correct pronunciation while reading helped my brain connect sound and meaning. Without trying, my listening skills improved. I started recognizing words when people spoke, not just on paper. That gave me confidence. Graded readers also made learning enjoyable. I looked forward to reading because the stories were interesting. Learning no longer felt like a burden, it felt like a habit. That enjoyment kept me consistent, and consistency changed everything. Through graded readers, I finally understood how languages are learned through exposure, repetition, and meaning, not pressure and fear. That discovery gave me hope and showed me that English could be learned naturally, step by step. The biggest change in my English journey came from building simple daily habits. I stopped searching for shortcuts and accepted that progress comes from consistency. Instead of studying for many hours one day and then stopping for a week, I decided to do a little every single day. That decision made learning feel manageable. I created a routine that fit my life. Every morning, I spent a short time reading in English, even if it was only 20 minutes. At night, I read again or listened to the same story. I didn't push myself to do more than I could handle. I focused on showing up daily, not on being perfect. Some days, I felt tired or unmotivated. On those days, I small. I reminded myself that small effort every day is more powerful than big effort once in a while. Slowly, English became part of my daily life, not a special task I avoided. I also started speaking to myself in English. At first, it felt strange, but it helped a lot. I described what I was doing, what I was thinking, and what I planned to do. There was no fear because no one was listening. That practice helped me think in English without pressure. I didn't chase fast results. I trusted the process. Some days, improvement was not visible, but over time, the changes became clear. I could understand more. I could form sentences faster. English started feeling natural. These daily habits removed fear from learning. English was no longer something I prepared for. It was something I lived with. Consistency gave me confidence, and confidence pushed me forward. That simple routine became the foundation of my progress and proved that discipline is more powerful than motivation. For a long time, I thought building vocabulary meant memorizing long lists of words and their meanings. I tried that method many times, but it never worked for me. I would remember words for a short time and then forget them when I needed them the most. That failure made me believe my memory was weak, but the real problem was the method. When I started learning vocabulary through stories, everything changed. Instead of seeing words alone, I saw them inside sentences, actions, and emotions. Each word had a situation, a feeling, and a purpose. Because of that, the words made sense. I didn't have to force my brain to remember them. The same words appeared again and again in different stories. Every time I saw them, my understanding became deeper. I didn't translate them into my native language anymore. I understood them directly in English. That made learning faster and more natural. I also noticed that I started using new words without thinking. When I spoke or thought in English, the words came automatically. This was surprising because I never sat down to memorize them. They became part of my natural vocabulary because my brain had seen them many times in meaningful contexts. Another important change was pronunciation. By listening to audio while reading, I learned how words sound in real English. This helped me recognize those words when people spoke. My listening improved along with my vocabulary, which increased my confidence. Learning vocabulary this way removed stress. There was no pressure to remember everything. I trusted repetition and exposure. Over time, my vocabulary grew quietly but strongly. This method taught me that real vocabulary is not memorized, it is experienced. Speaking English used to be my biggest fear. Even when I understood what people were saying, I stayed silent. I was afraid of making mistakes, afraid of wrong grammar, and afraid of how people might react. In my mind, speaking English meant speaking perfect English, and because I couldn't do that, I chose silence. À some point, I realized that this fear was stopping all my progress. I understood that, no matter how much I read or listened, I would never improve unless I started speaking. That realization was uncomfortable, but necessary. I decided to change my relationship with mistakes. I gave myself permission to speak imperfect English. I stopped correcting every sentence in my head before opening my mouth. I focused on communication, not correctness. At first, my sentences were simple and sometimes wrong, but people still understood me. That gave me confidence. I also practiced speaking alone. I talked to myself, repeated sentences from stories, and spoke out loud while reading. This helped me build fluency without pressure. Slowly, my tongue became comfortable with English sounds, and my mind became faster at forming sentences. When I speaking without mistakes, Buddha didn't stop me. I noticed that most people didn't care about small errors. They cared about understanding. Each conversation made me braver. Each mistake taught me something new. Over time, fear lost its power. Speaking became natural, not scary. I learned that fluency does not come from waiting until you are ready. It comes from speaking before you feel ready. Confidence grew with action, and action replaced fear. Today, when I look back my journey, the most important, un-décisif premier conduit que. I was not special, talented, or confident when I started. I was scared, confused, and full of doubt. The only difference between my past and my present is that I did not give up. Many English learners believe they are too weak, too late, or not smart enough. I believed the same things. But English does not belong to a small group of people. It belongs to anyone who is willing to learn patiently and consistently. Your background does not decide your future, your actions do. You do not need perfect grammar to begin. You do not need a strong accent or expensive courses. What you need is belief and daily effort. Start small. Read simple stories. Listen again and again. Speak, even when your English is broken. Progress will come. There will be days when you feel slow and frustrated. Tatinor malerngen. Some days you will feel confident, and some days you will feel stuck. Do not let those difficult days stop you. Keep going. Do not compare your journey with others. Everyone learns at a different speed. Focus on your own progress. Celebrate small improvements. Those small steps will lead to big changes. English changed my confidence, my thinking, and my opportunities. It can change yours too. Believe in yourself, trust the process, and never quit. Your English journey is possible, and it starts with one simple decision to begin today.